In Northumberland, there is a fairy called the Ainsel, or Ainsel, which literally translates to my own self. The Ainsel appears as a child, a young fairy girl who occasionally drops down chimneys to play with lonely children. The Ainsel herself isn't particularly frightening, but she is easily upset, and her protective and violent mother is known to devour or steal away any child who upsets her precious daughter. One story tells of a young boy who, through cleverness, managed to outwit the Ainsel and avoid the wrath of her angry mother. On this occasion, when the Ainsel dropped down the chimney and introduced herself, the boy lied and said his name was also Ainsel. And so the boy and the fairy played together carelessly for a time, poking at the fire in the fireplace with sticks. But when the boy accidentally knocked a stray ember towards the fairy, she immediately started to make the most horrifying wailing shrieks. An angry voice then boomed down the chimney. "Who has hurt you, my child?" the mother fairy asked. "Ainsel did it," the fairy girl replied. And then the voice from above said, "If it was your own self, why are you making such a fuss about it?" And an arm reached down and yanked the wailing fairy back up the chimney. So, if you ever find yourself face to face with a young fairy girl who says her name is Ainsel, make sure you tell her your name is Ainsel too. The Alp-Luachra, also known as the joint eater, is a malicious fairy from Ireland. It appears in the form of a small newt or lizard and hangs out near springs or streams. Anyone careless enough to fall asleep near such a body of water is a potential victim for the Alp-Luachra. These creatures attack their sleeping victims by crawling down their throats and taking up residence in their bodies. Once infected, the victim is overcome with a ravenous hunger and a thirst that can never be quenched. This is because the Alp-Luachra devours all its victims' nourishment from inside. The only way to get rid of an Alp-Luachra is to deny yourself liquids, while at the same time eating large quantities of salty food, especially salted meats. The Alp-Luachra will then be forced to crawl out of your body in search of water. The Amadan Dubh is one of the most frightening of all the Irish sidhe. Also known as the stroke lad, the Amadan is the fool or trickster of the fairy people. He is also stark raving mad, even for a fairy. No one knows for certain what he looks like in his true form, though some claim to have seen him from a distance, a figure in black dancing erratically across lonely hillsides to mad, disembodied music. There is no way to protect yourself from the Amadan Dubh, or avoid him. Not only can he make himself invisible, but he's a shapeshifter and could be literally anyone. He attacks entirely at random, seeming to delight in the pain and misery he causes, especially if he thinks he can humiliate his target or make him the subject of ridicule or scorn. If you are unfortunate enough to draw the eye of the Amadan, you may find yourself permanently deformed or crippled. You may even lose your mind. His touch has the power to bend and break bones, to warp the mind, and even to kill if he's in a particularly foul mood. Unfortunately, ailments and disfigurements caused by this fairy cannot be cured, and the Amadan is so insane and remorseless he can't be reasoned with or convinced to lift whatever evil spell he has placed on you. Though, unfortunately, for the rest of your life, you may from time to time hear the mad, gleeful laughter of this fairy as he revels in your misery. The Onku is the fairy Grim Reaper. A lone, hunched figure in a hooded cloak, he drives a rickety cart led by 4 snorting black horses. The cart is said to rattle along fairy trails, accompanied by haunting music. Should the Onku's cart stop in front of your house, someone inside will surely die. There is an old Irish proverb that says, "When the Ankou comes, he will not go away empty-handed." 2 terrifying skeletal assistants hurl corpses into the back of the Onku's cart, while the Onku himself collects the spirits of the recently deceased. What he does with those spirits is unknown, though some say he comforts them and initiates them into the world of the dead. In Brittany, every parish is said to have its own Onku. At the end of each calendar year, the last person to have died becomes the new Onku, the king of the dead, taking over the position for the following year. If a particular year sees many more deaths than usual, locals are known to remark, "On my faith, this one is a nasty Onku." There's a small town in Ireland where a mother and daughter claim to regularly hear the Onku's rickety cart pass by their cottage. And though they can clearly hear the rattling cart and the fairy music, they can see nothing at all on the empty street outside their home. Should you ever hear the rattling of an old cart on a lonely road, best to stand aside and keep a respectful distance. It might be the Ankou out on his nightly run, calling for the dead. The Addercrop is a fairy filled with poisonous evil. Its name literally means little poison head. These diminutive creatures look like small snakes, but with human-like arms and legs. They can walk upright when they wish and live in dark, dank places amongst tangled and poisonous plants. They are fiercely protective of their territory and venomous towards human intruders. At the same time, they are intelligent and curious. They investigate humans who come too close and come up with intricate plans to take down their targets. They are particularly apt to attack lone or weak travelers, as they do not like to be outmatched. They may attack in groups against a stronger opponent, first luring and fooling their prey before striking. If you ever find yourself alone in the wilderness and hear a rustling in the brush, perhaps near some poison ivy, best to turn and head in the other direction, just in case an Addercrop has got you in its sights. The Awd Goggie is a fairy boogeyman who likes to eat small children. It is said to resemble a giant furry caterpillar big enough to swallow a child whole. It lives in orchards, preferring especially to lurk near ripening apple trees, the perfect lure for its child victims. The Awd Goggie is able to turn itself invisible, and the only way to detect its presence is by watching for flattened trails of grass covered in a shining, silvery substance, like a trail left by a giant snail. If you see such a trail, especially near a fruit-bearing tree, it's best to turn and head the other way, because the Awd Goggie is likely lying in wait for its next potential meal. Though the Awd Goggie is said to leave adults alone, one can never be too careful where fairies are concerned. Thanks for watching. This is my first video in a series I'm calling the Scary Fairy Dictionary, a kind of bestiary for fairies. I'm going to try and do one video like this for each letter of the alphabet, so that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you'll tune in for that. For my next video, I'll be doing some true fairy encounter stories. I've looked all over the place trying to find these, and I found some really creepy ones, so hopefully you'll drop by for that. In the meantime, please support this new channel by liking and commenting on this video, sharing it far and wide, and subscribing if you're new. I really appreciate your support. And until next time, this has been a visit from your scary fairy godmother.